Post-hiatus BFDIA is quite a weird season. The episodes were really challenge focused like pre-hiatus, but with longer episodes. Way longer episodes. So, I feel more excited for Teapot episodes since they do lots of characters and some challenges are really good on top of that. I still enjoy BFDIA though, it's like classic BFDI as said earlier. But when they finally start doing interesting things with characters, a certain episode ruined that, and as said in the title, I think BFDIA 19 is the worst modern BFDIA episode. And when I say modern, I mean throughout the entirety of Teapot and BFDIA from 6 to now. And it's not just because it's less good than the other episodes, it's kind of awful. And the majority of people that voted on that poll I made in the community post disagree with that, saying that they thought it was a great episode, which I think is kind of odd. Before I start, I must mention this is opinion based, and like my last BFDI review, I'll go through the challenges and characters. And without further ado, let's talk about the episode. Let's start by talking about the challenge, and it was kinda mid. I'll bring this point up later in the video when I talk about the characters, but the characters don't get to do all that much, so having a challenge as boring as just finding stuff around and putting them in a box, it's kinda weird. It feels like lots of the characters are overcomplicating how to do the challenge. Like, Book specifically thinks it'd be a good idea to get more cool things for the fish, which is such a stupid idea, and I'll talk about it more when I talk about the characters, which I know I said for the second time of a row. But what's even worse is that the definition of what counts as a separate item is really vague. Like, different parts of a ship count as multiple different items, but apparently putting it as one makes it not count. Can Book not just make the ice cream into different parts, like the glass, the different flavors? Would that count? What defines an object being an object? Like, what makes a rocket ship just a rocket ship? Or just a bunch of random parts? It's really confusing. Tennis Ball figures out you can use different minerals as different types of items, and he doesn't expand on that idea. He goes to Yo-Yo Land and doesn't grab anything from there. He goes out of his way to kill the other WTFers. It would have been just as easy to grab a yo-yo berry, like some yo-yo bush, some yo-yo soil, I'm saying yo-yo quite a lot, some of the grass there, or just something else, and bring it back with you, instead of going out of your way to try to convince some of your friends to go with you. This point might seem a bit nitpicky, but I'm not too big of a fan of the location change. The area does look really nice. However, did it really need to change? In episode 18, we went to that new locale because it was where all the lights were. In episode 15, we went to that Coliseum area because that's where the birdhouse was. In episode 11, it was that Flowers shop, and Flower was the host at the time, so it made sense they go there. In episode 14, they went to the woods because that's where the islands were where they had to do the challenge. My point is that the contest had to do with whatever location they were at. And with such a cool location, there was lots you could do, like that giant box mall that Pin goes to. That would be an interesting location for a challenge, or the waterfalls, which would make some sense with the fish monster that hosts that episode. That also ties into my next point, that being that the fish host was such a cool concept, having a fish be the host, and yet they do nothing with it. It's just some boring random challenge that would make sense for literally any other hosts. Flower's contests revolved around Flower. In BFDIA 14, the islands were owned by the BFDIA early booters, so it made sense that they hosted that bit. Heck, you can even make the point that in BFDIA 15, Fiery Jr. was so fond of the birdhouse because it was small like him, and the whole point of the challenge was to be small enough to get inside of there. That's why he was the one to announce the challenge near the beginning of that episode. The WTFers were just a group of standard hosts, so it made sense that they just did standard challenges. But when you have a fish, the creature's known for being in the water. There were so many cool ideas for a water challenge you could do. Like I said earlier, you could do something with the waterfall, the ocean, maybe some new area related to water, but no, it's just in a new area just because we had to go to a new area. So yeah, the challenge kinda sucked, but hey, maybe the characters will make up for it, right? Out of all the characters, I'm gonna start with the best one left, which is Book. You know, I was gonna make a joke about how Claudimations would definitely disagree with that point, but after seeing one of his more recent posts, I think he actually started to like Book. Bro flipped real quickly like a coin. Get it? I know someone will definitely argue that Book isn't the best left, but in my opinion, pretty much everyone here except from Needle sucks. Like, a lot. For this episode, I'm gonna judge each character just based on their personality generally and what they did in previous episodes, because in this episode, all the characters barely do anything, and I mean like arc-wise. In this episode, the characters just go through the moments. Feels like they're just breezing by, like just reacting at the moment, not really doing all too much. Every character doing something that pretty much any other character could have done just as well. Book has one interesting scene where Leafy confronts her about being friends by making her an ice cream sundae for the challenge, and Book reasonably starts to question it a bit more than the other characters do, and this is the only time Book actually does something interesting this whole episode. The rest is her just doing stuff. There is also that one scene where Book helps out Needle by telling her to break the ship into multiple parts so it can be worth multiple parts, which feels like something only Book would do. And aside from that, none of the characters do anything that feels very exclusive to what their personality and skills are. When a character does do something that they can only do, it just kind of really feels like it was unnecessary. Like that one scene where Tennis Ball grabs some rocks by jumping down and bouncing back up. The scene would have been just as equally useful if he just found them and picked them up. But back to Book, she does the stupidest thing I think I've seen in this entire series, and decides to go out of her way to get cool things for the fish, despite the fact that neither the fish doesn't even care about any of the items Book gets for it, and also the challenges even state that the fish monsters get in the goods that they collect. This scene kinda sucks to an abysmal level, because firstly, any character in the show, even some stupid characters like Book and Nickel, would definitely know that that idea is absolutely stupid. Needle even points that out in the episode. And you can maybe convince me that a character like Coiny would maybe do something stupid like that, but Book, the character throughout the series who is known as the know-it-all, the one that does the stupid idea. Like, yeah, the character that always likes to brag about how much she knows is the same one that decided to do quality over quantity in a challenge focused based on quantity. She honestly deserved to lose the challenge since her idea was so stupid. And yeah, the ice cream sundae ended up getting all the characters to chase her down, but it could have easily just been some slab of, like, rot that she called ice cream and all the recommended characters would chase after it. Book didn't even know the characters were gonna chase after her until she did end up getting the giant ice cream sundae. Going back to the point that this challenge sucks, they had to get one of the smartest characters in the show, Book, to do something stupid to make the challenge more interesting. Needle this episode barely does anything. It makes some sense since she's the one saved first, but it's not really a good excuse to have her do practically nothing at all. I mean, as stated earlier, pretty much anyone could have done whatever everyone else did, especially that one scene where she just kicks over the crate. Pretty much any other character could have done that. Needle's skill of running really fast doesn't even do much for the challenge, as she doesn't really use that to get items quickly because, well, she only just runs into the woods, and you don't actually see how fast she can actually run. Like, in that scene where she pushes the box in the way of the ice cream so she can win the challenge, it would have been a bit more interesting if Needle ran to it, like, really quickly, because that was one of her character gimmicks, and that would have been actually interesting. While I'm about to talk about Tennis Ball, I might as well bring up the elimination in this episode, and I'm kind of okay with Fries getting out, to be honest. Fries and Tennis Ball are on par with each other and how interesting they are, and last episode Fries was more boring than usual, and Tennis Ball was doing his whole being evil thing. Like, wiring the levers so that way no one could get them. Fries just accepts death and then revives himself multiple times over and over. So I'm kind of fine that Tennis Ball was actually safe this episode. I know that might be a little controversial, but with that whole like inventor shtick, which they may or may not use next episode, judging by what he does this episode, it was kind of more interesting than the whatever guy. Looking back at it, Tennis Ball is probably more interesting than some of the other characters in BFDIA, however I still think he is overrated in Teapot. And now, I think I'd actually be fine with either Tennis Ball, Needle, or Book actually winning the season. I can't really talk about Pin or Coiny without mentioning one or the other, and despite the fact I don't to even talk much at all aside from one scene in this episode, it's because of the last few episodes. Specifically because of Coiny. Pin doesn't do all too much this episode at all really, and her tripping Book up with the glue might be a targeted thing, but I'm pretty sure it was just because her crate was in the way and it was an unpersonal attack just so that way Pin would win the challenge. Coiny dropping the betrayal arc is really stupid. They play off his first few moments hiding in that one lighthouse as him just being asleep the whole time, which is kinda stupid, and apparently he cared more about missing the elimination than his own friend betraying him. I guess you could make the claim that he's just covering up how upset he feels about the betrayal, but they don't show any hint of that in the whole episode. Not one moment when nobody's around and he starts to look a bit upset at all. And if they reveal that he was actually secretly feeling upset next episode, that'd be stupid because there was no indicator that he actually still cared last episode, so that kind of sorta twist wouldn't really make much sense at all. He states he respects the grind of Pin winning the challenge by betraying him, but last episode he was shown to be quite upset with Pin betraying him, and not of a, oh I lost way, but more of a, Pin, I dug to the center of the earth for you, which does sound like he's upset at Pin specifically and not losing the challenge. And it should mean a lot to Coiny. In the same episode, he gave up a pretty much guaranteed immunity just to revive Pin, and from episode 12 onward, Coiny literally saved Pin from eternal torment and was her only ally throughout most of that time. Pretty sure people with the same mindset as me would have disliked Coiny last episode if they knew they were going to drop the whole Pin betraying arc thing immediately after. The decision to drop the Coiny being upset at Pin thing immediately is really stupid. If they did not want to have a depressed Coiny that was upset at Pin, then you should not have set that up at the end of last episode. It's so stupid. The fact they dropped the Coiny being depressed at Pin arc sooner than can drop your firstborn son is stupid. I know BFDIA, as stated earlier, is a more contest-focused show, doing the challenges and funny shenanigans first and the characters second, but still, we're only at the final 5. I'm sure you can have time to do something character related while still having a funky challenge that the viewers can be engaged with the whole time. Secondly, the episode is 22 minutes long. If we do something that schools are practically known for and do something a little bit mathematical, if we want to estimate the average amount of time each of the 5 remaining contestants have left, then we should subtract 4 minutes from the total episode length. That accounts for the host time, credits, elimination, and Fry since he was eliminated. Please note that this 4 minute subtracting thing is a bit of an estimate and might not be totally accurate. You have 80 minutes, which is 1080 seconds. Divide that for 5 for all the 5 remaining characters. Each character gets 216 seconds, which is 3 minutes and 36 seconds in total for each character. This doesn't account for when characters have moments with each other, which might even increase the time for each character. You could argue that 3 minutes and 36 seconds isn't enough time to do something interesting with each character, but in Teapot 17, that episode was really good in the sense that, despite having double the length, it still had triple the cast that this episode had, meaning it had less time to do something with each character, but each character felt unique and good in their own ways in that episode. You can make the claim that some characters weren't really that good, but at least they still felt different from the others. You know, they were more interesting. I know there will be at least one person that would argue that BFDIA is a contest-focused season, so having one episode that doesn't do much with characters is perfectly okay. And if you ignore the fact they completely ignored the Coiny arc and some characters do some stupid decisions, then it would be a good episode. Well, I kind of argue that the challenge sucked. And sure, you can have good episodes with bad challenges, because the episode isn't about the challenge, it's about the characters themselves. Teapot had done something like that. In Teapot 2, 16, and 17, you could claim that each challenge wasn't really interesting, and sure, 17 might be a bit more unique, but in reality it was just kind of just 4 simple challenges. But those episodes were good because they did a lot of the characters. You didn't need a complex challenge to make things interesting, you just had to have interesting characters. Heck, some Teapot episodes even had interesting characters and challenges in the same time, like episodes 7 and 10, specifically. Yeah, another reason why it really sucks that they don't do much interesting with the cast is that this final 5 is kind of boring. Out of the final 11, I'd say these guys are the worst ones that we could have gotten, aside from Book maybe, and I feel like it would have been lots of opportunities to do interesting things with these characters I find mostly not interesting, and if I do find them somewhat interesting, specifically Pin, they're just really annoying. I think it's quite ridiculous not as many people are talking about how bad this episode is. At worst, I hear people saying that it's okay or mid. I know lots of people can have different opinions, but I feel like not as many people are even talking about how bad this episode really is. At least how I see it. And to be fair, when I started writing this video, I didn't really hate it all that much. I thought it was just mid. But the more I've been writing and thinking about this episode, the more I realised how much it sucked. All the wasted potential, the bad challenge, and the bad interactions with characters. Really, this episode was pretty bad in my opinion, and definitely worst out of all the season, because at least pre-hiatus episodes had that charm to them. But now, instead of just 2 people, it's a whole team of people working on episodes, and recent ones have been really good. So it's been really disappointed that the fact that this episode isn't that good at all. Well, that's the end of all I have to talk about this episode. I won't do the thing I did last time where I showed my reaction to the video, because I don't think it really fits with the pace that this video had. And if you still like the episode, that's completely fine. There are definitely reasons why I can see people liking this episode a lot. So yeah, that's why I personally think this episode is the worst one out of the entirety of BFDIA. Oh, and right before the video ends, I just want to do something kinda silly. As a kind of way to shout out all the people that made it to the end of this video and the next one, I'm going to do a cool little thing where I'm going to put a code near the end of every single video, so that way the true fans that stay to the end will get credited next video. Yell face crash out, the text will be on the screen, all you have to do is comment it, and I'll read off the names of all the people that end up commenting this code at the end of that video. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.